For 5 years, Melissa and I lived in a small town in Nebraska named Gibbon. And while I was there, I was the pastor of a church. And we were young, we were newly married, and we didn't have very much money. And I remember there was a big national conference for pastors and church leaders that I really wanted to go to. It happened every other year, and it seemed like each time it happened, I didn't have the funds I needed to make it happen. And I expressed this to my board one day because I was saying, hey, I was planning on going to this year, but it's not going to happen. Afterwards, one of the board members pulled me aside and said, Matt, I want to pay for your trip. I'll pay for you and for Melissa to fly down to Orlando, for your hotel room, for the conference. I'll pay for the whole thing. I want to make this happen for you. I was blown away by this man's generosity because he was giving, he was kind, and it wasn't just with his money. He did the same thing with his home, opening it up so people could come over and have meals. Melissa and I had gone over there numerous times. That he used his time to serve on the board. He was using everything he had to not just be generous, not just be kind, but to really love me. And I felt his love for me through that act of generosity and kindness. And that act was so powerful to me. So what I want to encourage you today to do is we continue to learn to live in hope, is to live in love. And particularly, I want you to learn to love with all you've got. Love with all you've got. See, in 1 Peter chapter 4, starting in verse 8, Peter writes this. Above all, love each other deeply, because love covers over a multitude of sins. Offer hospitality to one another without grumbling. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others, as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. If anyone speaks, they should do so as one who speaks the very words of God. If anyone serves, they should do so with the strength God provides, so that in all things God may be praised through Jesus Christ. To him be the glory and the power forever and ever. Amen. So Peter is saying you've got to love others. It can even cover over a multitude of sins, he says. And we need that. We need the love in our world today because a lot of people are hurting and they're angry. And for some reason, even the coronavirus pandemic has been turned into a political issue, which is butting people against each other, and there's more conflict than ever. But if we choose to respond to that conflict and anger with love, it can cover over a multitude of sins. That's why we should love with all we've got. We should love with all we've got. We shouldn't post nasty comments. We shouldn't post encouraging, loving comments. I'd appreciate some of those on this post. We should not engage people with our words unless it's to cover over sin. It's by loving them. Love with our words. But he also says love with all you've got, with hospitality. If you have a home, if you have a vehicle, if you have a cabin, use it to be generous and serve others. Have them over for meals. Have a watch party at your home so that people can watch the worship service, for example, on Sundays when we can't physically be together during this time of reopening in the pandemic. Or maybe he's even talking about, Peter says, about the spiritual gifts we have. The spiritual gifts we have. If you have the gift of service, you should serve others. If you speak like myself, you should use your gifts of speaking to love other people. We should use whatever gift we have to love. Love with all you've got. So if you're watching this, I want you to take an inventory of yourself. What things do I have that God has gifted me, like my house, like a car, like stuff that I can use to love others? Do I have finances that I can be generous with and give to others to love them and show the love of God to them? Do I have spiritual gifts, the gifts of service, the gift of leadership, the gift of hospitality, the gift of speaking, the gift of encouragement, the gift of administration? Whatever your gift is, could you use it to love others? Could you use it to serve others? Could you use it at this time when people are so in need to give generously, to help buy someone a meal who may be in need, to help out a family watching their kid? I don't know. There may be some way that you can help. Maybe it's a couple that's older than you and you could check up on them and just say, hey, how are things going? And make that part of your routine and help them out however they need around their house. Love with all you've got, whether it's your spiritual gift, whether it's a physical gift, whatever it is. To live in hope, we need to live in love. So love with all you've got. And I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what one way that you're going to love someone today. I want to hear from it. Comment below or send me an email. I want to hear about one new way, maybe during this pandemic, you're learning to love others. Love with all you've got.